Well, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good day,
Hello.
wherever you are tuning in from, because we have people that tune in from all over the world. And I was just here, but I'm back. This is Dr. Jacqueline King, and you already know who I am. I have the lovely Shante Vines, who is going to be with me tonight, and we're going to help you try to understand fear and the reason why people allow fear and obstacles keep them from leveling up. Shante, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell them what you do.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Shante Vines, and I am a mental health therapist and counselor out in North Carolina. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm also an adjunct professor at two universities out here in North Carolina. I am a mama of two beautiful children. I have a 23-year-old little girl. She's not little, though. I'm telling you, it's like, good Lord. And I have an 18-year-old son. I am a believer. I am passionate about Black and brown women, all women, but I definitely have a passion for the unique experiences that we have as women. I have a lot of passion about how trauma has impacted our communities and the way in which we see things and see life, especially when it comes down to fear and anxiety, and how to overcome some of that by challenging traumas and childhood traumas and all of that good stuff. So that's just a little bit about me.
Shante, if you don't recognize her, comes on with BJ,
Mm.
and they do passion to live, right?
Mhm. Permission to live.
Permission.
You know what? I think I'm gonna change it to passion to you because you love that passion to
do.
live.
I know I mess it up every time. Permission to live, which is really a
Mhm.
nice broadcast that they come on and talk about life's challenges. But tonight we are, as you know, we launched our Christian Women Level Up. As you come on, type in where you're tuning in from. Go ahead and email us and let us know that you saw the broadcast and share the broadcast. So the email is going across the screen. Um, and there's no reason to type your email into the system, but go ahead and let us know where you're tuning in from, and send us an email, what you thought of the broadcast, and also to be on our mailing list for our Christian Women Level Up. So, Shante, here's the thing. We do these broadcasts every Wednesday on Christian Women Level Up,
Mhm.
and we get so many comments of women like saying that really want to move forward. I'm afraid, and I'm afraid of failure. I'm afraid of obstacles. Um,
Mhm.
so, what can you say for them?
I think fear within itself is such a big word, and it can come from so many different places. But for me, anytime I thought about doing something and was afraid of doing something, I realized over the course of time that it had a lot to do with self doubt because I didn't know my value and I didn't know my
Mm,
worth.
mm,
And when you don't know your value, when you don't know your worth, um, when you have not just doubt about you, but doubt about your skill set, many individuals will have like this imposter syndrome where you know what you know, but you're so afraid because it appears that others know more. So then you quiet your voice, or somebody has
mm,
already done that. So they don't need another book, or they don't
mm,
need another therapist, or they don't need another vocalist, or they don't need, you know what I mean? So it's like, what is going to make me unique when there's so many other people that's already doing it? But I tell you what, there is only one you. And I had to realize that although in my multiple roles that I share, there is only one Shante. And God gave me a gift to share with others in my authentic way.
and the Bible says your gift will make room for you, does it not?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We do have a hello, Tara. Let's see, I don't know what that says. Thomas, it's so small. But Vashida is here. Katie's here. G
Mm-hmm.
here. Go ahead and share the broadcast. But I just put it on the screen. Natasha says, "I'm afraid of change. I'm comfortable where I am, and that's not good."
Yeah, yeah. So being afraid of change is not something that is uncommon, but I always ask individuals, and even when we look and think about it from the lens of leveling up, I think leveling up is going to mean different things for different people. And your season has to be understood. You know, from a mental health perspective, for some that's listening, leveling up is simply getting out of the bed in the morning. That's the first step
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
because they're dealing with so much, right? So the first thing I want you all to think about when it comes down to leveling up is being honest with yourself to say, I don't have to level up by opening up a business tomorrow. My leveling up could be getting out the bed and making me some coffee and writing a word of affirmation for me. You know, my leveling up could be opening up the laptop and just doing some research. That's my step one. Um, so knowing where you are and not comparing yourself to other people. I think fear also comes when you do that. When you compare yourself to others, I want everybody to understand that you are uniquely you. No one can give what you can give. No one can share what you can share. God speaks to so many different people differently. How many individuals in the Bible had the same title as it relates to prophetic or right prophet or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but they delivered it in their own unique way because God gave them a particular mission and a vision. Mm-hmm.
That's profound right there. And God has given us all our own unique gifts and talents. I can't do what you do. You can't do what I do. And there's enough of what we do to be able to impact people. There
Yeah.
really is.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You know, one of the other things that I realized, Dr. King, is we as women have such a distrust for one another to where we don't like to collaborate because of fear.
Mm-hmm.
And I can use this as an example. Connecting with you, Dr. King, on a different level pushed me. It had to push me. I am one that has had so many different transitions within the last 2 years to where I'm like, Lord, I know that you want me to do something different, but what is that different? And sometimes we have to be comfortable with being still because if we move before God, then we can find ourselves in a lot of trouble. So I know that we had that one comment that she indicated that she's afraid of change. I think being honest with God, even to say, I'm afraid of change. Is it that you're afraid of change or God just haven't, or you haven't put yourself in a space to hear him about what your next step should be?
Mm-hmm. That's
So
true.
yeah, so there's so many components to it.
Katie Dunn says, I'm a very positive, but I've gone through a lot of health issues in the last 2 years and now I'm unemployed. It's been very hard for me to keep a job after my health issues, and I've
Mhm.
over, it looks like 100 jobs.
And and that's tough when it comes down to health issues. And I think, you know, again, everyone's story is unique. And what I would say to that particular writer and to everyone on this broadcast is to ask yourself, what lens are you looking at life through? You can look at life through the lens of defeat, or you can look at life through the lens of opportunity. Um, so whether it's and I don't know and will never try to put myself into the shoes of anyone who has had any difficulty, like health issues. That is so difficult to process through, and I am praying for you. Um, but I want everyone to ask, what lens are you looking at life through? Because we're all going to have barriers, and those things are going to be different for everyone. But are you looking at it through the lens of defeat? Or are you looking at it through the lens of, again, a God-given opportunity, which is different from just an opportunity? Because, go ahead,
I
Dr.
love
K.
that. No, I absolutely love that. And I tell my stories all the time. I remember when I transitioned from New Jersey with a six-figure salary, company car, expense account, all of that, to North Carolina. Now, I wasn't going to I knew when I came there, I wasn't going to make the money that I was making in New Jersey. That was just not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember taking my first job at Bennett College. And Bennett College was near and dear to my heart because I, through charitable giving and company match, I gave to them for years just because it was an all-girls Black college. It's to the point so much that they actually had me down as an alumni. That's how much money, I'm serious, how much money I gave to them. So I was like excited when they hired me. And I was well overqualified for the position. I was like an administrative assistant or something, but I just really wanted to get in there because it was like really, it was the college. Well, it was actually the worst experience I ever had in my life. I'm not kidding you.
Wow.
I was working for the professor from hell. And nothing I did was to her liking. So I stayed there 3 months. And I wrote a resignation letter, typed up 3 pages. That was long.
And this is what I'm thinking right now.
This is what I'm thinking. I sent it to HR and I sent her a copy. And the HR director, she just absolutely loved me. And she says, well, let's have a meeting. And so we had a meeting and we talked, and then she asked me to leave the room and she wanted to talk to the professor. And she came back. She said, the professor said she's willing to work through this with you. And she says, are you willing? I said, absolutely not. And she said, well, how much notice are you going to give us? I said, when I leave here, that's your notice. Because when I leave out here, I'm cleaning my desk out and I'm leaving. I didn't even have a hint of another job in mind.
Wow.
This is the truth. I know that I'm worth more than this, and you're not going to treat me any kind of way just because you are a professor with a doctorate or whatever. So I left with like I said, no plan. And here's how God does it. So I applied for a job at Bank of America, and they hired me immediately. The next week.
Wow. Wow.
God, if you believe the Bible, which a lot of us say that we have faith, but when trials come in, our faith kind of goes out the window.
Yeah.
That's when you need to pick it up a notch, right, Shante?
Yeah, absolutely. The faith of knowing that God has our next steps planned out could be hard, but that's what the scripture says. We walk by faith and not by sight. So we're not going to be able to oftentimes see what's ahead of us, but that could be difficult. One of the most major transitions of my life was when my recent divorce, and I thought and did not know for myself who I was in that time. It's like, I've been this for so many years. Who am I now? And it was reestablishing who I was and being comfortable with me. And one of the things that I realized was the most powerful lesson that I learned was the lesson of being alone with God to understand what my next steps were. And sometimes we are such in a rush to get to a place where we don't even know what that place is. We just feel like we need to get somewhere. I think we feel like we always have to be in a rat race because that's what society gives us. So that's what we see others doing. And don't let social media jack y'all up, because you could be looking at, I'm telling you, you could be looking at your peers, or you could look at your colleagues, and it appears that they're moving and they're doing things. And you're like, I need to be keeping up. No, the only person that you need to keep up with and be on pace with is that and those things that God wants you to do, and on that timing. So, so leveling up from a different perspective could also be leveling up with your relationship with God.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a biggie, girl. That's a biggie. Mm-hmm. Because when you have established a good, solid relationship with God, you can hear from him.
Yeah.
You can hear from, he will actually, let me tell you what, God told me to start Black Women Empowered. And when I started telling people about it, they were laughing at me. I'm talking about even friends and family were like, whatever. And I know what I heard. Look at us, 3 million followers plus later. That was what God said to do. But guess what? I was leery myself.
Yeah.
And so, I believe he wanted me to do it full time, and I didn't. Guess what happened? I got fired. I'm not kidding. I got fired.
Yeah. That's sometimes how God works. You like, Lord, really?
I told you you were going to do this full time, and you didn't listen.
Yeah.
And guess what? In the midst of that, everything worked out. I kid you not. Everything fell in place. I didn't miss a meal. I didn't miss a mortgage payment. And I had 2 houses at the time. I didn't miss a mortgage payment. Everything unfolded in God's timing. Yeah. I still am amazed at how he did it. But that's real faith. I remember after I won my workers' comp, which they denied, and I've talked about this before, they denied my workers' comp after I got hurt on their job, and they fired me. Okay?
Oh, wow.
And after I won my workers' comp, I lived off that money for 2 years, and I was down to my last $1,300 to my name. This is a true story. And I said, God, this is it. I ain't got no job, no money, no nothing after this. Okay. But I had applied for Social Security disability. And the funny thing about that was, when I went to find an attorney to represent me, I didn't know anybody. And I just looked in the phone book and picked this one attorney. And I went in and I asked the lady, I said, what is your success rate? She said, 98%. And so I started to tell her about BWE and the veterans and the Christians. And she, she said, this is a Christian law firm. I'm telling you, I'm not even creative enough to make this story up. She said the owner, who was a woman, she said she tithes off of everything that comes into the firm in the year. She tithes off all the money. Can you believe that? And she said, and the Lord's Prayer is engraved under the carpet.
Wow.
And she said, and we pray every morning. I didn't know this. I picked this company just randomly, so I thought. And so she said, well, I'm going to tell you something. These cases can take years. And I know you've heard it, Social Security cases. Usually they get rejected on the first time. You know that, right? And so I'm like, God, I done got years. So guess what? My case settled in 6 months on the first time. And it gave me a lot of money in back pay.
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
That was God.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I tell
it's
that story all the time.
Yeah, there is a level.
My assistant who brought me that great gift, my baby girl is on. Itoy, hi honey, I love you. She's amazing. But I'm not gonna get distracted. Go ahead.
No, that is not. That we have to be able to encourage and and shout out our folks. But I think, and I'm one to understand the practicality of things and how sometimes thoughts could be so lofty to where individuals feel like it's not reachable. It's like some of us know the scriptures. I was born, raised in the church.
Okay.
You know, my mama right now is a pastor. My granddaddy is a bishop. You know, that's church is all I know. But when you put things into practice, it can be difficult without strategy. And when it comes down to fighting fear, you have to have peace. And how do you establish peace, right? How do you get to a place to where you're so peaceful and comfortable with your relationship with God, to where whatever comes, you are settled and it is well within your soul.
And that song, "It Is Well With My Soul," whatever my lot, taught me to say, "It is well.
It is well. It is well."
Soul. That's a powerful. That used to be my grandmother's favorite song. My grandfather was a pastor too.
But yes,
but
that is all I know.
You brought something up about strategy. So I know it make it sound really simple how I managed to win my case in the first time. But let me tell you, there was a strategy. You said that. I took every doctor's note and every letter that the company had sent me, and I scanned it and put it on a disc. And when I went in, I handed her the disc, and she said, "I've never seen anything like this before in my life."
Wow.
That was a strategy.
Steps, goals.
They didn't even have to ask for anything. Because, you know, one thing about it, when you are in a lawsuit like that, they charge for every piece of paper that they send. Every doctor's note, you ask them for it, they charge for that. I didn't lose any money because I had it all on a disc.
Wow. And that is strategy, and that's preparation. You know, for me, in some of the most difficult times, I realized for me, I had to sit down somewhere. And I'm one that always move. And I had to say, I need to slow down. And I think for me, my strategy to get to a place of stillness that I can hear was routine. Right, was really putting myself in a place of routine and dedicated meditative time with the Lord. When do you sit down? Because the Bible gives us a strategy. Prayer is strategy, fasting is strategy, right? It gives us a strategy. Do we utilize those? Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. And if you know that you're struggling in those areas, I charge you, or I just would say,
encourage you.
I encourage you to give enough. And I would even say it this way, and this might be a different take, but love yourself enough to pour into yourself and give yourself time with God. Sometimes we as women love other people and give everybody else our time, but we don't love ourselves enough to sit down and give us our own time. We don't pour into who we are.
And we don't invest in ourselves. I talk about that so much. You invest in everything else. You pay $100, $150, get your hair done. Then that is an investment. But I'm talking about investing so you can level up. That's not going to level you up anywhere. Your nails, I love getting my nails done, believe me. And I love getting my hair done. But what are you doing to get to the next level financially? Sometimes you have to invest money into getting to that next education. I finished my doctorate in 2022. I'm 66 years old. I could have said, the heck with this. I'm not going to work anymore, which, you know, I mean, a regular job, I don't have any plans of working a regular job. What was the reason that I needed to do that? That's something that I wanted to do. It took discipline. You know, it really was. I had to do a mind shift. That, you know, because you've got several degrees yourself. That's a lot of work.
It is. It is. And when I went back to school for my second degree, well, my master's. When I went back to school for my master's degree, my daughter was 5 years old. My son was 3 weeks old.
Mm.
And this might be too much information, but I had a C-section with my son. So when I started graduate school, I was literally hopping to my first class, because you're talking about 3 weeks, but I was determined. And people was like, why don't you just take off here? You just had the baby. I said, no, ma'am, and no, sir. I won't do it. And I worked. There was times, and this is funny, but my daughter said, Mommy, I know more about therapy and counseling than you do, because you had me sitting in the classes with you. But I sure did, because I didn't at times have money for a babysitter. Mm-hmm. So she had to come with me. So she was sitting in the class, and I was like, listen, you better. I wish you would. Right? So
that's that Black mother.
Listen. But she did, and it was determination, right? It took courage and it took will, but it also took you loving yourself to invest in yourself. What does that look like for you? Like, what does your level up look like for you? What do you need to sharpen in order to level? Right? What is it that you need to sharpen? Is it your relationships? Is it your work ethic? Is it drowning out distractions? Like, where is it that you need to kind of sharpen to get to that next step? And is it your mental health? Because some of us is so blocked because of what we're going through, mm-hmm. right? And mental health is real. It is so real. But if you know that you need to get some healing done, I encourage you to start that journey. I encourage you, Dr. King.
Absolutely. That's crucial. And, you know, you really have to, like you say, be still. The word says, be still and know that I am God. Sometimes you just have to lay on your face. Mm-hmm. Can I just keep it 100? Mm-hmm. You have to mm-hmm. lay on your face before God and find out. Because I did a presentation on women's history a few years ago, and it was called Walking in Your Purpose. There's probably about 200 women there. And I asked, how many of you know without a doubt that you are walking in your purpose? And I promise you, probably maybe 5 women raised their hand. I was kind of like floored. Mm-hmm. Really? You don't know what your purpose is? Mm-hmm. See, because one thing about it, and Bishop Jakes talks about it all the time, when you uncover your passion, you've uncovered your purpose. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so God will give you, how to mold it to fit your life, or to make it profitable. And it doesn't have to be money either. It could mm-hmm. be this ministry, which is not just, that's a big thing.
That's huge. That is huge.
So, I mean, but you have to know what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And purpose. One of the things that I realize that many of us do is we wear so many roles. We identify with our roles to where we lose ourselves. And I realized that personally over time. I was a professor, I'm a therapist, I'm a mom, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a friend. I was a wife. With all of these things, I realized in my time with God that I didn't know who I was. But I had these accomplishments, I had these titles, I had, these roles. But in the middle of that, I lost me.
Right.
And the hard part came when I had to dig and say, why did I lose me? And that's when some of the ugly started to come out. It's like, oh my goodness, over time, really doing the work is doing hard work and saying, how did I get here? And be okay with the response, because sometimes it could be you. It could be you that got you in that position, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot, but this is good stuff.
It is. And so I'm telling you, Queens, here's the thing. Black women empowered, with all of our many women, over 3 million just on Facebook alone. This is a sisterhood network. You have got to learn the art of networking. I learned the hard way in corporate America, how crucial it was. And I tell this story many times. My parents were not corporate America people. My dad owned a car dealership. My mother worked for General Motors. So they couldn't give me anything that would help me succeed in corporate America. I didn't know anybody in corporate America. I honestly believe that because I was smart, I was going to go in there and I was going to excel. That is the furthest thing from the truth ever. You've got to network.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how
Mm-hmm.
smart you are, what a great job you're doing. If no one sees it, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be seen. I was fortunate enough to have a mentor that saw this in me and believed in me and mentored me all the way to a six-figure salary, a company car, and all of that that goes with it.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us don't get those opportunities. So that's why I'm saying you've got BWE to help you in every area. Shante is our Christian life coach. She's going to be offering her services. We have so much real estate, nonprofit, grants. I'm trying to think of if you need website design, AI training is what we're going to have. I mean, I can't even remember all the stuff. These are things that are coming that can help you. And if it's something that you want that we don't have, start emailing us and telling us some of the things that you need help in. Out of this network, we can find somebody that can help
Absolutely.
you. We can't find anybody out of 3 million people, and that's a sad situation right there. But yeah, that's what somebody says, they need a mentor. I got it. I see what you're saying. But don't just type it on here, because we need you to email us and tell us what areas of your life do you need to help with leveling up. If it's prayer, we have prayer on Facebook 7 days a week.
That's right.
Some people don't even know it. Between 6 and 6:30, you can turn on your Facebook and you're going to get prayer with somebody every day. We have mental health moment with Dr. Nakisha Hammond. She comes on every Tuesday night. She's been doing it probably for about 5 years now. I don't even know how long. There's so much right here at your fingertips. Go ahead, Shante.
Yeah, no, and all I can do is just say, it's a blessing to start the journey of reestablishing trust within each other as women.
Yes.
Because betrayal is real. And I think so many of us has been hurt and burned, and it's hard to trust, so I think that even with the coaching, starting off, and I start off particular coaching in this particular round in small groups, because it's important to know how we all connect and go through some of the same things. That's another reason, in my opinion, why some of us are so fearful, because we keep our mouths shut so much. We feel like we're the only one going through it, when there are so many individuals that are going through it or have gone through it and can give you some help to get out of it. But because we have so much fear, and unfortunately, I think sometimes even the thought of religion has put us into a place where we're scared. We don't want to share. We don't, and we leave it all to God, which we should, but we need each other. There is a connection that we have to have, and there is a reestablishment of trust that we have to have. Should you be careful about who's in your circle? Absolutely. I have different circles. I have close ones, I have social ones, I have professional ones. But when it comes down to it, when it comes down to that leveling up, when it comes down to what Dr. King was mentioning as it relates to networking, when it comes down to being able to share your heart in a confidential space, just so that you can know you're not by yourself. That is the loneliest thing. The most hopeless and helpless thing is to feel like you are going through alone. And that is a trick of the enemy, to make you feel like you're by yourself. Sis, you are not by yourself.
Definitely.
You are not by yourself.
And the Bible also says we are overcome by the testimonies of others.
Mm.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when we get together and you say, "Oh yeah, that's happened to me," we did the broadcast. Actually, we didn't. I'm sorry. I was on a Zoom earlier because we're working on some things with Black women's health. Because if you know it or not, Black women are, I don't know how many times more likely to die in childbirth. Their
Mm.
children are more likely to die in the first year. There's so much that we don't even talk about. We're actually working on some stuff to bring you a forum where we can talk about it, because you'd be surprised at how many Black women had stuff happen to them in childbirth. All of this stuff relates to leveling up, because you're leveling up your mind to know what to look for if
Mm-hmm.
you're in that situation and something's going wrong in the middle of your childbirth. I remember I heard that on BWE, and here's what I need to do. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's a
Mm-hmm.
level two.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So there's really so much when it comes to this level up. We want to be everything that we can be to you. Patricia says, "Thank you for presenting Level Up in all different perspectives, since as women, we are all in different walks of life." That is absolutely correct. And we
That's
realize
right.
that too.
That's
Uh,
right.
mhm. So it is critical. So what else you got on your mind there, Shante?
Yeah. So no, I was, I'm as far as what Patricia Webb just put on there, all different walks of life. I cannot expound on that any bigger, because, and I mentioned it at the beginning of the broadcast, please do not compare yourself to anyone else, because that is the embodiment of being stagnant, is when you compare. You go into your secret place and you create with God what it is that is unique about you. Sometimes we lose ourselves, and that's just the fact of the matter, for whatever reason. I promise you, my son, the basketball mama, I'm the mama of all things. I mean, I'm in their life, and I'm like, Lord, my son is 18. What am I gonna do? And it was a shift. It was okay. There's a different season. I couldn't compare myself to anyone else. I had to drown out the noise. I even had to take time. And individuals sometimes are afraid or feel like online ministry um, is not good. And I love both, going to the church and then online, whatever is best for you. But there's a season, and there was a season where it had to be online for me, because I had to drown out everything else. I had to really focus on me and the word, and not what other people was doing or what other people was wearing or being self-conscious. I bet you if I was to ask the question, how many women on here probably don't go to church because you feel like you don't have something to wear and you don't want folks looking at you, right? Like sometimes those distractions will prohibit you from moving forward. You do what you need to do for you to get closer to God. You do what you need to do for you to reestablish who you are, or establish who you are. Because, and I'm not going to go there, Dr. King, but I feel like there's some women on this broadcast who have never been able to establish themselves. They don't know who they are.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I agree with you 1,000%. I'm just going to acknowledge my assistant real quick. She says reestablishing trust with women, and she just re-emphasized what you said. But let me just share a little bit. And I love sharing stories. So for me, I raised my kids as a single mother, so they saw me start my career, and I'm trying to think. I think I was 21. I think I was 21. and I was there for 26 years. But I started I walked in as a clerk typist and worked up to middle management. Like I said, six-figure salary, blah, blah, blah. But the point is, I kept leveling up. They saw me level up in my career. Not ever, and it wasn't easy. Let me tell you, I was in the largest electric and gas company in New Jersey. If anybody lives there, they know exactly where it was. But it's a white male dominated industry, and for you to level up, if you can just make it in there, you're doing a good thing. I'm just being real with you.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm talking back in the 70s and the 80s. So that's a long time ago. But the point is, my kids saw me keep striving to do better and better and better. And guess what? That's who they are now. So when you're leveling up, it's not just for you, because your kids are watching you.
Powerful.
And they see, if you're at 10 years, you're still doing the same thing that you were doing 10 years ago, chances are that mindset will be in your children. They'd be like, well, mom worked at this job, she didn't do nothing else, so why? But it does have a domino effect, right, Shante?
Absolutely. You know, I on my Instagram page, I have one more short clip to post, but the last couple of clips focused on breaking generational trauma. And one of the clips was specific to parenting and how what we don't deal with, how that impacts our children. And that's one of the ways generational trauma can continue. If I'm not dealing with my stuff, if I'm not trying to become this person that I know I want to be, God wants me to be, even if it is parenting. Sometimes your role in your season is to be a parent, and that's it. And that's okay, right? But you wouldn't even be able to do that effectively if you're not dealing with you. So what you just said was absolutely correct from that parenting lens. Is what are we giving? What are we showing our children? Right? What are we giving to them? What are we leaving them? What are they seeing? And it's sometimes not what we say, but it's what we do. You know, so you're absolutely right, for sure.
Yeah. So here's I had to get rid of we get spammers on this, so I have to get rid of them. But yeah, so you are a walking testimony, whether it be for your children, your coworkers, or whatever. Somebody's watching you, whatever you do. I remember my son in college, he went to A&T, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
And both of my kids did. And he had to write a paper on his role model. Guess who his role model was? Me.
Oh.
And I got so teary-eyed. He said, I remember him saying that my mom raised me and my sister in a single parent home. And he said, I didn't feel any different than any of my friends that had two parents. That's major.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a story. That's a story. And that's not just a story, but that's showing will and strength and courage.
And it's hard as a single mom, you know.
Wearing multiple hats and balancing multiple things is hard. And we as women have a tendency of doing it whether we want to or not, especially when we're parents. We wear a lot of hats and a lot of roles. And what your baby saw in you, and my daughter, and she graduated from Howard. So HBCUs are definitely doing it, right? So she just graduated from Howard. But she said in one of her interviews, she's an activist. She said in one of her interviews that she's never known me not to work 3 jobs at a time.
Wow.
And when you're a parent, you do what you do and you don't realize it. But then I also had to do some self-reflection to say, if I'm working so much, what does she miss?
Yes.
From me during that time? And she's a mini me. She is a mini me. That girl juggles a lot. She has multiple business. She's young, but she does a lot. So she picked up that. But then also I'm like, I need to really dig before she gets into her own relationships and get married and etc. to see me as a parent in full transparency. Sweetheart, if I worked that much, did you feel like anything was missing? And it's okay to self-reflect. It's okay to be honest with you. And I tell you one thing, and I know we probably have to go soon. I want
15 minutes.
Okay, yeah, I want folks to know another part of, in my opinion, fear of leveling up is because you have yet to forgive yourself.
Mm.
And sometimes that fear of saying of what you did or what life is not, there is nobody here perfect. And sometimes the church can make us feel like we need to be. So you have to acknowledge and you have to forgive yourself because God has already forgiven you. So if forgiveness of yourself is holding you back, I would say go into your secret place and talk that over with the Father because he's already forgiven you.
Hallelujah. Make sure that you email us, tell us what you thought of the broadcast. Let us know what areas you want help in. And also, you're emailing us so you can be on the list to follow the movement, Christian Women Level Up. Katrina says, you can pray for other people and listen to their problems, and it can drain you physically and mentally. So here's the thing.
That's the truth. It can.
That is. But here's the thing. I had to learn that because I have always been a giver and a motivator and an encourager. That's my gift. However, if the same people are dumping their garbage on me day after day after day, guess where that's going to leave me? In a bad place. Mm-hmm. I had to learn to shut it down. You cannot be everything to everybody. Mm-hmm. That's impossible. Stop trying because you will never succeed. And what it'll do is it will lower how you feel about yourself because the negativity wears off on you. Is that right? Go ahead.
Yes. Yes. When I talk about establishing boundaries, I had to, and you get wiser the older you get.
Oh, yes.
You just get wiser.
You do.
But it's like if I'm always depositing or someone is always depositing onto me, but I'm not allowed to withdraw, right? Because relationships are mutual. And sometimes and I tell my children this, if you are in a situation and you're in a relationship, and when I mean relationship, I'm not talking about just intimate relationships. I'm talking about friendships. I'm talking about all interactions. I say, if you leave and you feel worse coming from that situation because of what you was just in, you need to question that space that you was in. If you feel like you were drained, what was going on to where you feel like you was drained? You have to be able to set boundaries for yourself. And then we also have to be able to know when there is a us job and there's a God job. Some of us feel like we have to fix everything. We are not fixers. We cannot fix everything. So sometimes even with the heart and even in what I do, I had to learn very early that there's some things that you have to allow people to just go through, and that's it. But it can be draining. And I recommend definitely being able to know your temperature, what you can take and when you need to set appropriate boundaries.
Absolutely. And some people, it's hard to say no. I'm not, I
Mhm.
can't, I can't hear this today. It really is. What do you
Mhm.
tell them?
I tell folk, no is a complete sentence. And when you have difficulty with saying no, I was one of those people. And I'm still working through some of that because I just have a heart of giving. But I have to continuously ask myself, do I love myself enough to set this boundary? And it came back to self-worth, value, knowing your value, knowing your worth. Um, there's so much to this, Dr. King. And this is why I love the coaching in this space versus the therapy in this space, because it's so different. But there's so many components to the no, right? Ask yourself, why do you have issues with saying no? That's internal questions that you have to ask you. Is it because, why are you such a people pleaser? Right? You have to ask yourself some hard questions. And usually it has to do with you doing the work and working on you. But I tell you this, love yourself enough to start working on you.
Absolutely. I love that. And so I've just decided that we're going to come back once a month. and
I'm
have
excited.
and have these conversations because they're needed, and the engagement is good. Um, we're helping people, but now, Shante is going to be available to do the group coaching, and that's not going to be free. And so that's why I'm telling you, you have to invest in yourself. I'm going to be doing coaching on networking and social media, how to build your following, and leveling up. I'm going to be doing all of those. So, you know, we're here for you. Our services, we can't give them away because we got people to feed, we got bills, we got stuff.
Yeah,
So we have to be able to charge you for our time. We are putting in the work, and if you want it, we're going to be here for you along with our other experts, right, Shante?
absolutely. I am. I am. I'm going to work with Dr. King. Um, as far as fees and all of that good stuff. I know this is just the beginning of great and wonderful things. Um, I'm excited. I'm excited for those that listened. I'm new to StreamYard. I think I only used it twice, so I can't see anyone. So I don't know who's all on there. I'm so used to Zoom and those kinds of things. But I just thank God for everybody that joined, and again, just giving yourself, even if it's just this space, and this space helped you in some way. I think that Dr. King could sleep at night, and I can too, to know that today our purpose has been complete. We did what we were supposed to do for today. So I look forward to continuing on. I'm excited.
Absolutely. And my assistant said, thank you, beautiful and phenomenal queens. We thank you, Queen. And thank you for my gift. Don't let me start crying again. But as for everybody that tuned in, please share the broadcast. Etoy, share the broadcast in all the groups for me, please. Um, we have to get this message out to everybody. I tell you all the time, we are stronger together.
Mhm.
This is a sisterhood. This is a movement. We are going to level up together, but only if you want to. We're not
Mhm.
pushing, we're not pulling, we're not begging. It's here for you, and you have a choice. As I say always, I love you, and there is absolutely nothing you can. I'll be back here. I'm trying to think. I think my next broadcast, we will be doing another broadcast on diabetes, from a young lady who has she has her own facility where she does education, and I'm not sure what else she does, but she'll be coming on. I believe that's next week. And we also will be back with Dr. David Ajabadi, who will be talking about dementia, something else that we don't talk a lot about um, in our community. Dementia. There's a lot of African American people that are living with dementia, and a lot of people who are taking caregivers of their parents and grandparents who have dementia. And my grandmother, both of my grandmother and my great grandmother had dementia, and I'm gonna
Oh,
tell you,
wow.
it's tough. It is tough. So until the next time, I love you. I love you. I love you. And don't forget to send me an email. We want to know what you thought about this. We want to know what areas you need help in. All right. God bless.
Have a good one. Thank you, guys.